My name is Charles Cardovillis. Currently, I'm a project consultant at Cisco Systems for a telehealth project. And I'm obviously a big rugby enthusiast, former head coach of Kenya Harlequins.
Charles Cardovillis is among the first generation of players that played for the national sevens team between 1999 and 2005.
Actually, the 15s team got priority. So when selections was done and you were called to the 15s, we actually had to pull out of the sevens team. And because the sevens at that time only had 3 tournaments, it wasn't really big, it was just invitational. We used to go to South Africa, Dubai and Hong Kong. And a lot of the games we were playing at the 15s level was either against our big rivals, Uganda, or World Cup qualifiers.
The Cardovillis family was not such a big rugby family before Charles started playing. His uncles played for St. Mary's School in the late 60s. Charles picked up the cue when he also joined St. Mary's School. He actually took up triathlon as a sport until he was thrown a challenge because of his big size.
And said, you're such a big boy, you're scared to play rugby and whatever. And that got me onto the rugby field. And from then, I never sort of turned back. And the family just supported me.
Supportive parents and the links between Kenya Harlequins and St. Mary's School naturally influenced Cardovillis' decision to join Kenya Harlequins in 1995 while still in high school. 2 years of second team action and he was elevated into the first team.
So I was the young kid sitting on the bench, watching all my other friends play in the second team, that I'm here sitting on the first team bench and not actually playing. So it got a little frustrating. And I made a decision. And the decision to move to Nondies was pretty simple because Nondies had then moved out of Parkland Sports Club and their home was now St. Mary's. So in 1998, I moved to Nondies.
Charles says this was one of the greatest years of his life as he attracted all the good stories in the press. He was the St. Mary's School captain and he was playing for Nondies RFC. A good season culminated in Nondies winning the Kenya Cup, the Enterprise Cup, and he got his first call up to the Kenya team.
That year alone sort of eclipsed nearly everything in my playing years. And it was really, really enjoyable. And just because of the success in that year, I guess that was my finest sort of time in rugby.
Cardovillis says he loved the Super Series rugby tournament and his reason is simple.
It was 4 teams, Kenya's best 100 players, banging each other week in, week out for 4 weeks. And an ultimate winner. When you won that tournament, you know you had done everything you had to do.
His best was in 2005, playing for the Buffaloes franchise, a combination of Nondies RFC and the now defunct Ulinzi RFC. He captained the team that had difficulties in matching up. They played totally contrasting styles of rugby. Never mind, they both had moved to the Nairobi showground as their base. The effect, an uproar caused by a selection stalemate.
Ulinzi were on fire because I remember for the sort of final, I think it was the final selection, they only had 3 players in the team. And I think two of them were starting, the other was on the bench. So they had Dennis Manja, Paul Murunga. And so it was a big thing, it almost became nasty. But it was quelled, and the important thing is that we won.
Many players never have enough of the game. They would wish to play until the body can take no more. This is exactly what happened to Cardovillis. An incident in a Kenya Cup match made him realize he had reached the end of the rope.
Ian Simiyu had the ball, he was playing for Queens then, put me in the finest gap I'd ever seen. And I broke and I was through and I was all loose. As in, this is when you've actually clenched your muscles, you're through the gap, and now you know you're through and you open and you're like free willy. And pop, I get hit from behind, one of the hardest tackles. And I land on my shoulder and the shoulder pops. And it was one dear Humphrey Kayangi who had done that. So tried to get up and of course I couldn't, the shoulder was out. So I walked off very disappointed. I've rarely never finished a game. I've never really been injured in my whole career. And I'm like, wow. So I sat there, refused to go to hospital.
Part of giving back to the community is a project of satellite tournaments that Charles is involved in. Many a times they are perceived as competing tournaments with the mother union, the Kenya Rugby Football Union.
We are not trying to fight the union or counter what the union is doing. We are helping them sort of grow the sport. And eventually, we must work together.
Charles Cardovillis is an example of what structured development in the sport can produce over a long period of time. The rugby journey for him never ends. It only takes a different route with the passing of time.
My daddy and mommy, the engine behind me, asanteni sana, my biggest fans.